Well, speaking of elections, early voting began this week across Florida, and Republicans so far are leading when it comes to the number of people showing up in person to early vote. So let's ask the question. Craig, let's start with you. What's your opinion about what do these numbers mean when we see Republicans have this big advantage compared to previous years with early voting?
I think it means a couple of things. First off, there aren't many late deciders, so people aren't thinking about which way they're going to vote at this point. Most have locked in, so why not go ahead and vote now? That holds for both parties. That's part of it. Maybe they're fearing perhaps, God forbid, another hurricane. Let's hope we don't have that, but maybe they're displaced. They better get this out of the way now. And I think the biggest factor is that President Trump in 2020 worked very hard to dissuade Republicans from voting early by mail and otherwise, in effect. That's not happening as much this time around, and so I think we're just getting back to the patterns that existed before the times of the pandemic. And remember that Republicans in Florida long had the advantage in mail-in voting and voting early. It just switched for a little while. Now it seems to be reverting back.
And Davron, what's your take on these numbers?
Well, I think, honestly, I think Craig's right on point. I think that there's going to be a massive push, and the Republican Party knows that they have to get back to their base where they were. We had always been folks that mailed in early ballots and got out early. I think that they're trying to close that gap. The Democrats have completely outperformed in a lot of counties across the state of Florida, and if we don't get out, I think you'll see this red, they say in Florida's red, I think you're going to see it turn purple if we don't get smart about, the Republican Party getting smart about getting back to the basics. We had gotten cute for a while. We need to really just get back to going to vote.
Tar, do these numbers say anything to you about, for instance, the U.S. Senate race or the ballot amendments?
I think one of the things that it's not revealing is about the younger voter. We're talking Republicans and Democrats. What they haven't been reporting is that we have a huge push for young voters coming out, and they're making up 44% of the electorate. And so the more we see these young voters come out and flex, some of them have become undecided. They haven't necessarily said an R or a D, and I think that big part of the electorate is going to be deciding the election.
All right, Bob, what's your take on this?
I think what Craig said is absolutely right, but I also think the fact that Florida is not in play means that the resources here are not being deployed at the ground level that they have been historically when there were huge pushes for early vote, absentee vote, and day of voting. So on both Democratic and Republican side, the money's not there, the sense of urgency is not there, and so you're not seeing what you would normally see in a presidential election, which is people on the ground knocking on doors. And so the Republicans are going back to what they used to do so well, which is get in there early. The key will be whether the Democrats on game day, on election day, turn out like they usually do.
And Mark?
Well, Craig pointed out that in 2020, this was not what the Republicans were asking voters to do. They were very skeptical of early voting, and now there's been a definite push. Does that show enthusiasm, or is it just following the playbook that their leadership has asked them to follow? We'll find out on November 5th.